Hello and welcome to the Box Angeles Podcast with me. I'm your host, Mike Elder. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Let's start this off with a shout out. I got to shout out Alyssa Christopher. She subscribed to my Patreon last week. I really appreciate you. Alyssa, if you want to shout out, go to my Patreon, patreon.com/BoxAngeles. We've got all the audio archives of the first 300 episodes, and then I let you know about upcoming guests when they're scheduled to be on. And it's just a good spot to interact with my fans and to support the show in general. So please subscribe to my Patreon. While you're doing that, check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoxAngeles. Click subscribe there. That is free, and you get all the videos of all the clips and all that stuff of the podcast up there. So absolutely, if you're a fan of the show, or even if you're not, even if you just come for this guest or that guest, please subscribe. It'd mean the world to me. Okay, we've got a great episode for you this week. I sat down recently with director Sarah Adina Smith. Sarah has directed a bunch of short films like The Midnight Swim, Buster's Mal Art, Birds of Paradise. She's also worked on a number of popular TV shows like Room 104, Wrecked, Hannah, and How I Discovered Her, Lessons in Chemistry. We had a really nice conversation. I learned a lot. I don't know a lot about directing or that world. She shared a lot. I have a short film I want to make. We talked a lot about that. She challenged me on some stuff. This is a really fun conversation. I think you're going to dig it. I had fun, so I don't know why you wouldn't. So without further ado, I give you...
I'm Sarah Adina Smith. I'm on this podcast. Does that work?
Sarah, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We finally did it. We're here.
We finally did it.
Yeah.
You act like this has been a long time coming, but we've only been emailing for like 2 weeks.
I don't know. I was telling you, scheduling stresses me out, and I was like feeling badly because I felt like I hadn't replied, or I forgot your email, or I meant to. I do a lot of emailing in my dreams where I reply to emailing. Yeah, I think I've replied to something, and then I definitely haven't.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
And
it's problematic.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Sounds like stress streams more than anything.
Yeah.
Wow. No, you were relatively easy, so I appreciate the thought that you weren't. But yeah, you made it, so that's all that matters.
All right.
I was talking to you before this as we were waiting for a leaf blower. I reached out because of Lessons in Chemistry. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to quickly ask you, because we'll get into all your other amazing stuff. But like for Lessons in Chemistry, I literally read that book in January. And I read it so fast because it was such like a clear perspective. Like she wrote that, what's her name? Bonnie Garbus?
Sounds right.
She wrote that in such a clear perspective. Uh-huh. And it was like so clear what she was trying to say. When you take on something like that as a director, and you did episodes 1 and 2, right?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Do you like work with her to figure that perspective out? Or are you just solely working with Lee, the showrunner, creator?
Well, so Bonnie was an EP on the show and definitely like had some creative consultation, but really Lee Eisenberg was the lead creative voice in the writing and, showrunner, everything else. Bonnie wasn't that involved on a day-to-day basis. But I think with any adaptation, especially when people are hyper fans of the book, there's a danger if you adhere too closely to the book. It won't, the show or a movie needs to like find itself on screen and find its own best version of itself. So it was nice that she gave us that creative space and creative freedom, or it would have been pretty stifling, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But do you feel like indebted to, or not indebted, but like, do you feel like, so you feel like you can go out of the way a little, not stay true to it, because there's like multiple POVs in the book and stuff. And it's just like, is
this secretly like you are pissed off at the adaptation of Lessons in Chemistry? I would have loved it. You were like, this is actually like, I don't know. And you're like, and you're here to like confront me about it.
Really? I challenge people on like therapy more than
that would
anything.
be amazing.
But no. I liked them both. Oh. They were very different, but I liked them both. Yeah, and the only reason they were different was because they took some storylines. But overall, I thought you guys did a really good job, particularly like you did a POV of the dog in an episode. And I was like, yes, because I thought you had to do that. And I was curious how you guys were going to do it. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was both great. They were different, but I thought they were both great. And I was just curious.
That was all Lee's idea for sure, in terms of like the dog POV. But I think we were trying to stay true to the spirit of the book, but then also wanting to be really responsive to kind of the best of what the universe was giving us, to be really wooey about it. But it's true. Like Asia Naomi was an actor we looked at for a different role, and then we're just like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. We should make her Harriet.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious because you, up until that point, well, I guess you've done a number of TV shows, but like when you're making your own stuff, you just know what it is. And I was just curious when you're adapting something like that,
that's
how much
true.
reverence or deference you have to that, because the book was such an easy read and such like a cult following that I was just curious how much you like.
Wait, speaking of, I'm turning this on Do Not Disturb because I just feel my stupid Apple Watch buzzing over and over again. I wanted to not be distracted.
Is it because your heart rate's too high?
I don't know. Or just like texts and emails coming. Sorry about that. Should have done that at the beginning. But well, speaking of adaptations, I'm the thing I'm in prep for now is a new adaptation of Little House on the Prairie. So,
oh my god!
Speaking of like beloved books, right? Yeah, it's another good example. But I think you want to. I forgot what your question was, but I think you want to look at everything with fresh eyes rather than, again, you can't really map a book 1-to-1 on screen. That's a way for it to really fall flat. Which is why sometimes the best movies are made either with short stories or even sometimes like mediocre books make great movies, but sometimes, so particularly when there's a title that is beloved and is a classic, I think you run the risk of you're never going to please everybody. Right. That's what I think I should say. I mean, you're really just never going to please everybody. So I think you just have to honor what it was that drew you to the material and why you love it, and at the same time give yourself freedom to discover it anew.
Yeah. That's got to be hard to do. No, it's not?
No, I don't think so. I guess if you're like overly...
Well, like if I were to read the book, I would be like, okay, I got to do this. And at the same time, it's like I just interviewed a showrunner for an animated show. And I was like, that's got to be crazy. You could do anything. And he's like, well, you think you can do anything. And then the animators are like, no, that would require a whole nother 4 days to add that backdrop to that thing. And you're like... I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But for this, I would feel like it would be hard to like get away from what I know it to be. You know what I'm saying? It would be hard to be play free in the structure that is given to you. And maybe that's why I'm not a director. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's actually, for me, like my creativity comes alive when I'm thinking about the obstacles in a way of like, well, what do we have to work with? How many days do we have to shoot something? What are our resources? What's the most we can make of kind of what we have, stone soup style, if you will? That is always more exciting to me than if you just had like endless resources.
Really? Interesting.
I'm not saying don't give me endless resources. I would like.
Well, I'm just thinking.
I would really like endless resources, but yeah.
You made multiple feature films that you wrote. So, like for that, when you're approaching that, are you like? I guess that's obviously a completely different shift because you know what you want, you know what you're expecting. So, do you feel the same constraints are helpful, or you like that challenge in that way, or are you aiming for something that you really want and you're trying to make that work?
Well, I think, are you talking about the process of kind of like adapting your own writing versus somebody else's?
Yes, basically.
Yeah. I think it's actually really important, especially if it's something I've written, to try and look at it with director eyes and look at it with fresh eyes, even though you have the benefit of having like visualized the thing in the writing. But again, like in any step of this process, and you're an actor, so I'm sure you get this too, like you don't want to be too precious about anything, because if you are, you're missing the opportunity to be surprised. And I've learned over the years that I do my best work when I'm hyper prepared and I have a vision for things, and at the same time I'm remain really open and attuned to what everyone else is bringing to the table, because it's an extremely collaborative medium, as you know, and I think the reason we're drawn to certain stories on screen is because they capture something no one was expecting. If it were only a process of executing 1-to-1 my exact vision, I think that would be really boring. Actually, I feel more like a contractor, just kind of like, okay, now we're doing this, now we're doing that. Nothing against contractors, but I'm just saying I think there's something, I want to be in the process of creative discovery in the moment is also really important.
That's actually really beautiful and hitting home because I told you before this I quit my job and my last day's coming up and I'm going to take a creative leave and I wrote a short film like a year ago that I'm like I gotta make in this. Now that I got the time, I got no excuses. Let me make it.
Yeah.
And one thing I think I'm struggling with is I have a clear vision in my head of what it is and I'm scared.
Yeah, you gotta loosen up.
I gotta loosen.
You have to do more drugs or something, or take long walks, whatever works for you. Jump in the ocean more.
How do you did you find you had that problem when you first started too? And there was something that
actually.
Yeah, how did you break out of that?
Necessity. So I spent like 7 years before I made my first feature trying to make something that was hyper designed and hyper controlled. And when that fell apart for the bajillionth time, and with like money.
So you didn't even get it right away. It took a little while.
No, and money had already been spent, and it was like, okay, now I really got to make something. And so a dear friend of mine, Daniel Stam, said to me, "Go make an improv feature," and that was kind of that was totally frightening to me because I was very much a sort of controlled designer type of filmmaker in my mind. It's saying that I hadn't even made a feature at that point, but I certainly thought highly of myself in that way. And so the idea of like doing something that loose was really scary to me. And then I did it and I learned so much from that process actually. And again, it's not a free for all. You're not coming in with, without a vision or ideas, but I think that process, taught me that the most important thing you can do is slow down and listen on the day. Because if you show up and you've always seen it one way, but then it turns out the light looks like, it's coming from this direction and looks really beautiful over here. Like you'll miss an opportunity to go capture the more beautiful thing if you're too stubborn about only getting your first idea right.
Yeah. Yeah, my problem is I'm stubborn in life, so it's not only a creative habit. Then I would have to break. So I got to go to therapy and do some work.
Have you done that? Yeah.
Although I just broke up with my therapist recently, so.
Oh, that's kind of traumatic.
Not really.
Just that you have to like start over with someone sounds exhausting.
Oh yeah. Don't give me. Oh, now I'm nervous about that.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I wanted to ask you, like, to this point, like, if I'm making this short film and I'm, producing and writing and directing it and starring in it, like that seems like a lot. And I noticed that you on your first feature didn't direct it. The first feature you wrote.
Oh yeah.
Goodbye. Was that something you consciously did, or was that out of?
No, it was just that when I wrote it with Dennis, he was always supposed to direct it.
Oh, you wrote it with him. Oh,
yeah.
Okay,
the two of us wrote it, and it was always meant for him to direct. To poor Dennis, I think I had never made a feature before, and I think I was so itching to direct that I'm sure I was like wanting to backseat direct in a way, even though it was totally his movie. I think I was like, I'm going to be script supervisor, even though I had no idea what that role was, but I just knew it meant I could like sit by the monitor by him. But he was totally gracious collaborator. But yeah, I was just, dying to direct something.
Yeah. So I guess then my question would be, when you are doing those 50 different things on it, what sort of advice do you have for somebody like me who's about to partake on it?
Well, okay. Have you ever directed before?
Little shorts, but not even shorts.
So you've done each of these roles before. It's not like any of them are brand new to you. You've acted before, you've produced, you've written, you've directed.
Okay.
Right?
It's a very smart way to look at it. Yes, I have.
Okay. So then relax. You'll be okay. Do you have help?
I mean, I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah. Well, I would hope I'm gonna figure it out.
I mean, do you have a key creative ally?
No. Well, not really.
You need that.
Yeah.
You're gonna need that, especially if you're acting in it. You need a key creative ally whose taste you really trust, who knows you, who you trust is going to look out for your vision, who you can rely on the day if you need a bouncing board creatively, or if you want to ask someone, how'd that take really go, and want to get a second opinion. I think that's yeah, that's really crucial.
Yeah, is that sorry, is that Dennis to you? I know you have a writing partner. Who's your writing
Dennis
partner?
is a wonderful collaborator, but I don't know. I have had many different writing partners over the years, and I also write by myself. So I'm not like solely with just one person.
Got it.
Yeah.
So all your
I'm a non-monogamous
I was just going to say you've
writer.
had
Yeah.
many
different writing partners. Also write alone. Yeah.
Yeah, key creative partners. You don't got it.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be the same person, but you should find someone who loves the material like you do, or just truly loves you and believes in what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to need that.
Yeah. Okay, this is all good
Yeah.
stuff.
What's your short about?
It's literally a slice of life. Me and my buddy were in New York. We hung out for a week. We watched a Greta Gerwig movie. We're like, this is us every day. We could write this. And it's just like us in LA for a couple days. It's very simple.
Okay.
It's like 4 scenes. One's in a coffee shop, which I'm like, how the fuck do I find a coffee shop?
Okay, so you're at the beginning of all this. You're like you don't even like you have.
I have a 12-page script or something like that. That's all I have.
Do you have friends who own small businesses? Okay, I was like, I don't know, just because you want to wrangle like locations that are going to be friendly, or try and rewrite scenes to places that are going to, I shouldn't, maybe you have a budget for it. I don't know. I'm not speaking out of turn, but if you don't, and if you're trying to kind of do it affordably, then definitely like just consider writing for locations that are going to be really friendly to you.
Yeah, I've even thought about like doing it in the back little alley here and faking it as a cafe.
Yeah, you could.
You're my key creative partner. I think that was a no.
I'm shaking my iced latte like an asshole into the microphone.
No, we don't have to talk about my short film all the time, but
No, we can.
no,
Let's do this. You want?
I don't want to.
Okay.
I mean, I would, but that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
This is about you, not me. I saw that you have a deal with Amazon. Can you run me through how that works?
Yeah, I mean, not anymore.
Oh, it ended.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
How did it work?
Well, when I was offered that first look deal, I was Hollywood ignorant. I did not know that such deals existed.
Yeah.
So I was really confused by it. And I was like, is this like some weird mafia deal? Like, are they going to like come back and like expect an organ at some point? Like, it was so amazing, like such an amazing thing to be, as someone who's always feeling like I'm always like begging for scraps of resources to make things, then to have this opportunity come about where they're like, we're going to give you money for your hypothetical future ideas, was totally incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was basically the setup, was because all these are like slightly different. I feel like I just interviewed Jason Weiner. I don't know if you know, he did like the Modern Family pilot, and he's had a long-term deal at 20th Century Fox for like 20 years or something like that. So I know they're all slightly different, but basically it wasn't like you were on their payroll. It was like they will bankroll your ideas.
It was a first look
option.
Yeah, it was like the first exactly. It was first look. So they're giving me like a base salary and money for an executive to like basically, help support a production company, and then we would bring them ideas first, and then if they passed, we still had the ability to bring them elsewhere. So that happened. Like we had an idea, they ended up passing on, and then we sold it to Stars, and we had kind of multiple things happen like that.
And do they approach you after like a festival or something like that, or is your management seek it out?
No, I had directed the pilot of Hannah for them, and they were really happy with that. And I think looking to build partnerships with up and coming filmmakers. And at the time they were doing more of those deals. Now, I don't know. I'm pretty like out of it when it comes to like the Hollywood business updates. I'm not sure what the status of these types of deals are now.
Did you get like a signing bonus?
Business is doing great, I hear, is all I know.
Yeah, real great.
Yeah.
Did they give you a signing bonus or anything to incentivize you, or no?
No, I think it was more like conversations of making. I think the thing I was worried about was I wanted to make sure that they actually wanted to make the kinds of shows I was interested in making, and that they really saw me as a writer as well as a director. But there was I mean, it was especially from the circumstances I was in. I was like, I'm not going to say no to that deal. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long was it then, and why did it end?
It was 2 years, and it ended because they did not renew it.
Okay.
Well,
to the point.
there you go. That
Did they ever
happened.
make anything that you did?
We made a movie together called Birds of Paradise.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
That was great.
So it had some merit to it.
Yeah, it was kind of, I felt it was strange, but it was like that deal, the first look was on the TV side. I was actually like a free agent on features, but then it just so happened that I had this feature ready to go. So I still brought it to them first because I didn't want them to be like, having done, to offer me this TV deal and then for me to be like, okay, so peace out for a year. I'm going to go work on this movie with someone else felt wrong to me. So I want to make sure to bring it to them first.
Well, they wouldn't have cared if you didn't, by the way. So it's,
I don't know. I guess
that's the trap
now
of
I know that.
employer.
Yeah.
They don't care about it. We're disposable? Expendable. Disposable? Both.
No comment. I don't know.
In that same vein, though, like to lessons of chemistry, are like when you're theoretically, and you weren't, but you weren't writing for them. Do you feel did that restrict you at all in like your creative endeavor? Like, do you feel like you were trying to make stuff Amazon wanted versus what you wanted in that time?
Oh, so you're asking like when I was in my first look deal for Amazon? Yeah, I do think we fell into that trap a little bit. I certainly started off being like, here are my dream projects. And they didn't want those. So then I was trying to think about what they wanted and tried to bring them stuff that they wanted. And it was kind of a relief to me when they didn't renew it, because I think as much as it was amazing to have some financial stability for a second and have some like, overhead to be exploring more ideas as a producer, it was also like taking me away from the kind of my own true voice and serving that rather than trying to like figure out whatever it is they wanted at the time.
Yeah.
But I kind of had a really good sort of debrief, if you will, after the deal expired. And I let them know, I said, like it was amazing manna from heaven gift I never expected to get that kind of deal. But at the same time, it was like creatively quite vexing. They said, I think they were really quite wonderfully honest about it, that like the problem was at the time they had pivoted and they only wanted to do like really, really giant IP, like Lord of the Rings type stuff. Or like super, super, super small, cheap stuff. And the stuff I was bringing them was more in the middle. It was like supernatural thrillers and crime thrillers and stuff. But it was like, or I would bring them IP, but it wasn't giant enough IP. And even if it had been super giant IP I was bringing them, I wouldn't have been a fancy enough writer director to get it greenlit. So I think in a way I just was it was a bit of like wrong timing, I think, perhaps for that deal.
Would you do another one if somebody offered you one? Would you be open to something like that? Or at this
I think
point,
so, but I think I would be really much more aware going in of the pitfalls. I think I learned a lot that time around. So I think if that were to happen again, I would want to find a project that I know they already want to make and sort of go into the deal with one project kind of like ready to go, or that we're already definitely partnering on. Yeah. Because I just want to be making things more than like just spinning tires. And I know development is obviously a huge part of what we do, but I would want to be careful not to fall into that trap. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Can you, if you are on that Amazon deal, could you have done Lessons in Chemistry since that's on Apple, or is that not related at all?
If I was still, and I wasn't at the time, but if I had been in the Amazon deal at the time, I think it would have been fine, because the Lessons in Chemistry was a directing job, an EP job. I wasn't the writer, and it wasn't something that I had been developing.
So it wasn't that granular. It was more specific to just development.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact terms of the first look deal, but I'm pretty sure they weren't.
That's what lawyers are for.
I know, but the spirit of it was, we're not trying to like own you as an artist, but just come to us first when you have new ideas.
Got it.
So it was really nice in that regard.
Yeah.
But I still feel it's more like I felt very. I just wanted to do right by them. I wanted to make sure that they felt good about my end of the deal, given that they were being generous with me. So it was less of like pressure from them and more me wanting to make sure that I was like,
which is interesting because I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I'm going to. Yeah. It's like I feel like, what did you necessarily get out of that deal?
Well, I got money for a house. That's amazing. I own my house now.
Wait. But that was after they made the one movie, or that was they were. Were they? Sorry, did I miss it? Were they paying you a stipend every week?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
That's what I'm saying. It was amazing. I mean, it was like
you would have guilt to that. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Got it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you don't say no to that. I didn't at the time. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. When you're making stuff, so like. When you're making your own stuff, obviously, I assume you're very involved in casting. But like when you're doing lessons in chemistry or Rect or Room 104 or whatever, like how much are you involved in the casting as the director? Do you want to be like intimately involved in it, or are you like casting director, send me your selects, give me your recommendations? How involved?
Yeah, it totally depends on on the project. At what point I come in the process. So like right now for Little House on the Prairie, I'm at the very beginning, and
are they calling it Little House on the Prairie?
Yeah, the Little House on the Prairie adaptation. They're going to call it.
I don't know if there was a spinoff like The Bigger House on the Prairie or something.
Not yet. Not yet. But
it just feels like really big shoes to fill. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But I would just say, yeah, like I'm very involved from the beginning on casting. But we have an amazing casting team and casting director and also Canadian casting team. So I'm not the one like taping every audition, but I'm certainly going to be watching tapes as they come in, and then we'll be really involved in chemistry reads and callbacks and everything.
Yeah. So let's drill down in that. So like if you have a guest star role, they probably bring in whatever number they're going to bring in, and then they're going to send you a number of selects. Do you tell them how many you want to see for each, or do they just send over ones that they think are potentially good?
Yeah, I think that a really good casting director will help narrow down the field, because otherwise it can be overwhelming. And you want to be able to give people their due and like really watch the tapes that they send in, but it becomes an impossible. That's why there are casting teams, because otherwise it's kind of it's impossible. Like not enough minutes in the day to watch every single tape that comes in. So it has to the casting team is the first filter. Right.
Let me clarify. Yeah. So I've interviewed a lot of casting directors, and what they say is some want 20 options, some want 2. So I was just curious how you are. Are you like, what is your, do you have a number?
I don't have a number. I don't have a number. Like send me anyone who's interesting to you.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Yeah. How do you pick a casting? Did the studio, are you working on this with the studio or like, because a lot of casting directors I've interviewed too are like, studios tend to go to the same casting director and want the same to work with the same person. So a lot of the younger casting directors can't find work. So how do you pick
it depends on the project. On a film, definitely I'll pick the casting director.
Do you have a go-to person you use?
No, I have a bunch of different people that I love.
Everything. You are not monogamous on creative partners, casting directors.
Marriage.
Always.
Yeah. But what was the question? Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be hired. Okay, well, it depends. I think it's usually for a movie. It's also like where you're shooting is really important, and it's kind of like what the movie requires. Like with The Drop, we used Nicole Arbusto, who was amazing, and it was like an ensemble comedy movie. And I had worked with her actually on Room 104 before, so it was like a no-brainer. She was kind of the perfect person for that. And on Hannah, I worked with Shaheen Beg out of London, who I love. Really great at finding like interesting character actors and unexpected faces. And so, yeah, I've been super fortunate and gotten to work with a lot of different people.
That's interesting. So you would like, if you need a comedy actor, obviously you go to, Seth Rogen. If you need drama, you go to Daniel Day-Lewis, but you do that a little bit for casting too. It sounds like you have people that are better at different things.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah. And then, but also I think it ends up being like, let's say on a new project, you might like send the script to 2 or 3 people and it's also about who responds to the material, who's really passionate about the material and seems to get it or have a take that kind of resonates with your take. A lot of every head of department that you're hiring is kind of like a casting experience in a way. You're searching for people who either share your kind of vision of the movie or who surprise you with a different vision that you love and that, give you something else to think about. So I feel like that's true for all departments, whoever you're hiring.
I love that.
Yeah.
That literally goes back to the first thing you said, which is you got to trust the team, collaborate. The whole thing's a collaboration, even down obviously to casting and stuff. When you're looking at the selects that they do send you as an actor, like I'm going to ask this is like, what pops out to you? Or do you like, is it literally you just like, no, this is your Bill or this is your Sarah or whoever you're casting, you just know? Or do people like, have actors in their auditions been like, oh, I wasn't expecting this, but this is actually, this could be really fun?
Yeah. It's a little bit of both. I try to always keep a really open mind. So even though someone might not have like the look per se or the type that you were expecting, sometimes that can be great. Someone kind of coming out of left field who you wouldn't have thought would have been right, but really just gives a killer performance or, has a kind of fresh take on it. And then sometimes it just feels like you've been kind of dreaming of this character forever and then you see a tape and like that person's real and has come to life. And that's always a nice feeling too.
That almost seems jarring though a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Wow, we did it. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Is there anything like, though, that like, and this isn't necessarily a fair question, but like anything that like you really like in those, because I assume these are mostly self-tapes at this point, like anything that really stands out. I just like, I've been wrestling with this idea of like standing out in auditions, right? Because like, that's my self-tape wall. Like we're taught, have a wall, have good lighting, have good audio. The thing should speak for itself. But lately, time and time again, I swear to God, I keep hearing like, oh, this person went out and actually filmed the scene. And it's like,
I hate that, honestly.
Okay, good. Thank God.
I think it's really annoying.
Speak on that.
Personally. Sorry. I mean, I don't know. So, I don't know. I think that's trying a little too hard. I don't think you need to do that. One thing I think is take the pressure off of yourself, because the truth is like we are all prisoners of our own body and shape and type, and so like you're not going to be right for every role, and it's it's obviously super subjective. You don't know what they're looking for, so you kind of just need to like relax and free yourself of those expectations, and instead just like try and enjoy the material. To the extent that you can, like find your way in, tell yourself you already have the role and that this is just a fun chance to play it and rehearse it. And I think if you have that attitude, then the process won't feel arduous. You'll actually get something out of the process and you're more likely, I think, to pop on screen.
Yeah. I love that. First off, I love that you agree about the pick me almost aspect of like doing it in your car, because I think that sets the bar so high and is so not fair because not everyone has the same resources. But also I love what you just said. Like, although I feel like we're taught as actors, like a lot of acting teachers are like, no, don't bring yourself to the role. That's the worst thing you can do. But I'm like,
what?
No, I am who, well, I'm being honest, like, because they.
What acting teacher saying this?
I don't want to out people, but there's some big ones that say that's like a bad approach to do. And I'm like, I want to do this audition how I would do it on the day of. And like, for me, that's bringing me to it. I
mean, there are definitely different schools of thought on acting and different ways to approach the craft. I don't think, maybe you're not like always having to play. Some great actors are kind of playing versions of themselves every time. Oh, yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is more like find your way into the material to like make it true for whether that's a version of yourself or a version of the character that you're embodying, but to find a way to love it. I think that comes through. And what's really weird about auditioning, especially self-taping, is like, and yes, you'll usually have a friend, hopefully, who's reading for you. But, you know, all great acting is about relationship and having secrets of like what you want that person to think about you or want them not to know about you. So trying to, it takes a even more imagination than normal. Because when you're on set, hopefully like your costumes and, you know, you've got all the props and your fellow actors are there. And so it's filling in all those gaps of your imagination. And then when it's just you and a self-tape, it's like, it's a lot of additional work on your imagination. So I think if you can, pare it down to just what you really love about the material and connecting to whoever is off screen, I think that helps a lot. And kind of remember giving us, like, be generous. I think best actors are generous actors. And what I mean by that is they're willing to give us private glimpses of themselves, or like allowing the camera to catch things we might not normally want people to see.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you're totally right about self-tapes. Like, it's so hard for me to get, you know, turned up and excited in this room. But like I told you right before this, I had like 5 in-person auditions last week. And like, there's so much to going there and, you know, getting there and
build up,
waiting. Yeah. Build up and the nerves. It takes me back to like when I did a lot of improv.
You go to the bathroom, you have diarrhea, then you immediately walk in and give your read. Yeah.
Yeah. Back when I did improv, you know, I would get a little tingly. I'd get those little butterflies, that anxiety, and that like turns me on. Not turns me on, but turns it on.
He's turned on.
I'm so turned
by
on.
Diarrhea.
But that's so hard to get, and I'm guilty of it, especially with commercial auditions. Is like, I'll wear fucking sweatpants in my commercial audition and just knock the thing out, and it's like, that's just not the same as getting dressed for the part, going there, having a camera, having a waiting room, all that stuff.
I don't know. I guess like whether you're in person or self-taping, to the extent that you can make it about connecting with people, even invisible people who are not in the room because you're self-taping, I think that's really important. And so like when you're driving to I think in-person auditions are awesome, because I think it's not fair, the burden that we put on actors to have to do all these self-tapes themselves. And
I accept your apology.
Yeah.
On behalf of every actor.
But I think it's a really nice opportunity, even though traffic and it's a pain in the butt to get places, but to connect with people. I don't mean that in like a impress people and like, you know, network or whatever. Right. More like to actually like just care about other human beings and share a space with them for a minute. Like, that's actually makes it worth your while.
Well, let me push back on you. Are you pushing for that more? I know a lot of like casting directors want more in-person auditions, but they're not given the resources anymore. They're like, oh, you may do without it. When you're producing stuff, are you pushing for in-person auditions as much as you can?
Maybe, yes, but more like for callbacks and chemistry reads and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you definitely need them for chemistry.
Yeah.
Zoom chemistries.
It's hard. It's tough. It's tough. I've seen it work before, but it's tough.
That's exactly why I've never done this podcast on Zoom, because I just don't think you get the same, like, we would not be picking up the same vibe on Zoom as we are in person. And it's just it's more dynamic in person than it is over a stupid Zoom.
Yeah, for sure.
It's my 2 cents. I don't know.
I agree.
People ask me all the time to do this. So I could get a lot of big people if I did this over Zoom. And I'm like, I'd rather not. But that's, you know.
You have principles.
I have. Despite what people are saying, I would never say that, but people are. No, I like all that. Yeah, that's really fascinating. So let me ask you, like, when you're not currently working on a show like you are right now, like, as a director, producer, writer, like, what do you try to structure your day as a 9 to 5, even if you're not making money, even if you're not on a deal or whatever? Are you trying to structure your day like a 9 to 5, or are you?
I work every waking hour that I can.
I mean, you're sending emails while you're sleeping, so yeah.
Yeah, because I want to make sure I can carve out time for, I'm a mom now.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. So I have a 3.5-year-old. So I am even more efficient, I think, than I was before. But it can be hard, like definitely, because there's always juggling different projects at different stages. And the type of deep work I do requires a kind of peace. So a lot of what I'm doing is like trying to carve out and protect space for me to get into the right head state to write something, because I can't just like turn it on. It depends on what stage of the writing it's in, but I can't just like hop around from, project to project. I really need a lot of quiet space. So sometimes when I'm especially like in a first draft, I'll end up writing at night just because I'm not getting bothered by a bajillion texts and emails. And like, there's always logistically so many things that have to get done. And I have to really like make quiet space for myself to get deep and good writing done.
Yeah. So you'll basically do it whenever you can, almost, to a degree.
Yeah.
And then, but you really got to lock in. You got to have.
Yeah, and again, it just depends on like what stage. If something is like in maybe more of a rewrite stage, or you need to make a quick tweak, that's different than when you're kind of generating the first expression of something.
Yeah. Prior to having a kid, did you try to make it a 9 to 5 or?
Well, 9 to 5.
I just mean like every morning. Do you wake up and you're like, all right, I got to put in a couple hours of this.
Yeah, but I think I'm not like I'm not the kind of person who's like from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm doing this thing, and then from 12 p.m. I don't structure my day like that, because I'm kind of following I'm trying to like listen to my energy wavelengths, I guess, if that sounds really stupid, like, but I'm trying. I'm trying to be aware. I think I've been doing this long enough where I know when I'm in a good mental state to get good writing done or not.
Yeah.
So then if I'm not, then I'll be productive on something else. Then I'll give myself permission to just like, okay, well then I'm going to do these like 10 to-do list items or whatever it is. Or like, I'm going to use this day for creating visuals or something else. But like when I can like almost sense when I'm ready or like ripe for writing, and then I'll try and carve out and protect that.
Is that something that you've just learned over time? Because honestly, what that sounds like to me is when they I don't know who they are, but when you can't fall asleep, they say don't try to force yourself to sleep.
Yeah.
Distract yourself and do something like you're not gonna go to sleep. So if you're forcing yourself, you're just spinning.
That's when I get up and write. That's kind of what
it sounds like.
Yeah.
So you've learned that over time, basically, of like,
it's kind of just like
trial and error.
Yeah, exactly. It actually is very physical for me. Like it is very much like the experience of like knowing when your body's hungry or ready to go exercise or tired, needs to sleep, or is tired and needs to sleep. It's similar to be like, oh, like I think I'm in a writing mode now.
Yeah. It's also like I read Eckhart Tolle book, I think a long time ago, and he was like, if you're gonna be lazy, give into that laziness and let it happen. Otherwise, you're gonna like not fully live the laziness. And then you never get it out of your system. And then you're never
satisfied.
And you don't get it out of your system. So it's almost like that to a degree.
Yeah, totally.
When you're directing something, I interviewed Payman Benz a couple times, but a long time ago. Do you know Payman Benz?
Yeah, I do. I love him.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. So Payman told me when he's on directing like an episode of television, he has no life. For the week leading up to that episode, he is just full. That's the same boat for you?
No, that's true. It's full on for sure. Which is fun and exciting. It's actually kind of relaxing to me because it's so full on that you can't. but that you can't do anything else. Yeah. Like all other balls are going to get dropped. So I find that very freeing to really just have like the one task at hand, which is to like do your very best on that show or whatever it is. The same is true for film production as for TV. Like when I'm in prep and then production mode, I kind of black out mostly everything else.
Yeah.
And I find it really like freeing, even if you come back to a life that's kind of a mess at the end because you've left so many balls drop, but it's sort of nice to get myopic for a little bit.
I like that.
Yeah.
When you start on like a show after it's been going, I keep asking these questions about like constraints, but you're saying you kind of like those, so it's weird.
No.
Like if you hop into a show that's already been happening, like how do you like feel like you have to watch every single episode of that show up until that point to get a sense of the tone, or do you just watch a couple? Do you try to like be aware of that?
It's been a second since I've done that type of episodic directing. This summer I did the half of the season of a new Game of Thrones spinoff called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
Oh, shit.
And that one I was doing episode 3, 4, and 6. So I definitely was like wanting to make sure I was very tapped into what was going on in episodes 1 and 2. But it wasn't like I had to go through the entire library of a show in motion.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because prep feels like a nightmare to me. Like what? Like, are you just literally thinking of every single shot you have to make and make sure you what?
Yeah. You're about to go make your own short, so we should talk about prep.
Oh no.
Yeah, you need to think about every shot.
Well, yeah, but what else?
I mean, you can always change them on the day, but
I got overwhelmed thinking about all this.
You start to get stressed out. Yeah.
So what?
Okay, so let's talk about your short.
No,
that's what needs to happen.
Nobody cares about that.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. But I mean, I would love to ask your advice on things, but
yeah, but you should break it down. I think maybe this is useful. Maybe people will care about this. Other people want to make shorts too. Okay. I mean, I think you should, I don't know how many scenes there are, but each scene, break it down. Think about what is the actual heart of the scene. First and foremost. Think about what is the heart of that scene, and then what do you need to do to serve the heart of that scene, and then be thinking about locations, your overall visual aesthetic, but then also like what shots do you need to tell, like whose point of view is that scene from, especially with a short, it's only a short. So whose point of view is the short from? And then think about the shots that best put the audience in that point of view. I like to shot list. I think it's very useful, especially if you're on a limited budget, because if you really do know, if not your exact shots, at least the angles you're looking in, you can save a lot of resources by like not worrying about dressing a whole set 360 if you know what direction you're looking in. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think I have most of that.
Honestly,
I'm like,
you know what to do.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing. It's going to be so easy.
Yeah.
Other than the coffee shop situation, we got to figure it out.
But you just start.
Yeah, that's 1,000% it.
Yeah.
I need to book I honestly, what it is, I have a tentative weekend. I just need to tell them we're locking this in, and then.
Wait, who's them?
It's me and my buddy.
Oh, right. Okay.
Are the two leads, and then.
Would you say that is your buddy then your key creative ally?
No, it's probably the guy I'm going to have.
That he's going to be very insulted when he hears that.
He's insulted, believe me. I literally shot last year I shot a bunch of scenes for my reel just because I wanted footage, and like I shot one with him, and he showed up late, and I was like, "Where's the script? I'm changing all the lines for myself." So I don't think he's the right guy, but he's perfect for this character that he's playing of himself.
Nice.
And our dynamic is perfect. I digress. Wait, quickly, you got a Game of Thrones spinoff. How do you mostly procure work? Is it through your agents or is it through your networking?
I'm not a very good networker because I don't like to leave the house that much. I'm a pretty cozy
We came here.
person. I did.
You know how to network.
I really do. I actually don't get out that much, but I would say, I don't know, probably like 50-50.
Okay.
My agents definitely bring me a lot of great projects. They brought me the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and the one I'm on now. Yeah, no, I have great agents. But then also sometimes it's like people I have a prior relationship with.
Okay. We talked about auditioning for actors. Do you have to ever audition, like not audition, but do you ever have to like pitch yourself? Have you had things where you really want to work?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
She's not.
Oh my gosh. Like, directors have to audition too.
I get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so tell me about like, do you get nervous about that? Are you comfortable now at that level? Like, is there ever been something you really wanted that you didn't get? that you were really bummed about?
Of course. Oh my gosh, of course. This whole industry is about rejection. Really.
Yeah,
of course.
Actors tend to forget that.
Yeah, and everybody's
everyone is.
Everyone's auditioning all the time at every moment, 100%. But I don't think I get nervous anymore, only because I'm like 42 and I feel like I'm starting to know who I am, so when I go in to meet on a project, I come in with a strong take that feels true to myself, and then if it's a match, it's a match. Great. And if it's not, then it's not meant to be. It kind of feels like more like dating, it should be like a mutual, like, are we both on the same page, and do we have good collaboration chemistry, and do you like my take and point of view on the material? And then if not, it's not a match, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that you're saying you're just now figuring out sort of your comfort level or whatever. I forget how you phrase it. You're like, I'm 42 and now I know what I...
Well, I think with each passing year, like the benefit of... I like getting older. I think the benefit of it is... I don't know, you're like always one day closer to death. And that's a good thing because it's freeing. Because you're just like, I don't know. You only, or at least I feel like the only thing that really matters is like being honest with yourself and others, and then kind of like however it shakes out is how it shakes out. We can't control the results of things. We can only kind of control our part in the process. And,
Yeah.
And then, and I think it becomes more and more important to me as I get older too, about like wanting not just the end result or whatever the goal is, but more like to actually come into things with the spirit of like actually enjoying meeting people, even if you're not going to end up working with them, just because they're like fellow humans in skin sacks on this earth. And like, I just want to be, I don't want to like go into something trying to extract things from other people of my own desires and needs. I would rather kind of like meet people where they are and make every day great, rather than just like, only if I get this thing, will it be great, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I too, and I was just talking to Brendan Jennings yesterday on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's the funniest improviser in the world, and I wish more people knew him. But like, he was like, "Yeah, I'm so confident in my self tapes now because he's like, I wish I could do my self tapes over from 5 years ago because I'm so more confident. Just repetition and like knowing yourself and who you are. I think to your point about getting older, I think that's 1,000% true.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also kind of like. Even if I'm so grateful that I get to do this work, I don't take it for granted. Any day on set is a miracle. It's really cool. And at the same time, if I couldn't do it anime, that would be okay too. There are other ways to live a fulfilling life. I think I've always wanted to try and live a contemplative life, a curious life, like, I don't know, a life that's engaged with other people and not only serving my own needs. As I get older, it just becomes more clear that, like, on my deathbed, I think those are the things that are going to matter more than how many trophies I got on the wall.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah.
You brought up death multiple times.
I do think about it a lot. I think about death a lot.
I have one more question. Who took a chance on you?
Oh, that's such a great question. I love that question.
That's why I like ending it with that.
I love that question. Well, the person who pops to mind is Mark Duplass. That was my first. Mark and Jay Duplass gave me my first TV gig. On Room 104. I had only done scrappy indie films up until then. And it was, it's the reason I have a career where I can like have health insurance and go to the dentist and have a mortgage and a family. Like that really, TV has been the gateway for me to have like some kind of sense of stable career. And then at the same time, there was this one amazing investor that I don't know if she would want me to name her name, so I think I won't. Okay. I'll just say Jennifer. I won't say her full name. But she was the first person to ever believe in me as a filmmaker and give me not a lot of money because my films were low budget, but any money, you know. Yeah, and it was like the first person to give me a little bit of money to try and make something, which is so huge, really, for anyone to take that leap.
That's super cool. How did she find you?
Friends of, you know,
got it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. We didn't know each other directly, you know, family friends. And, but I think that she, had a special interest in particular, like supporting women in film, which was cool.
Yeah.
And certainly helpful. It's really, you know, it's not hard, or it's not easy for anyone to get anything made. It's not. But I, you know, also want to recognize, like, depending on what your background is or where you come from, it can be even harder. And it's great when there are people who take chances on any up and coming new filmmaker. For sure. How did Mark find you? He found me through my great actors. That was like weird. The two of the actors on my first super indie feature, The Midnight Swim, Ross Partridge and Jennifer LaFleur, who are great actors, are friends with Mark and Jay. And when Mark and Jay were looking for different directors, I think they gave them my name, and I just went in for an interview. I probably did. That was like my first like pitch. I'm sure it was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I was very exuberant. I probably like danced around the room and did a lot of big hand gestures. But I'm sure I went for it. Yeah. I love that. That's very cool. I love people sending the elevator down and helping people out, for sure. Yeah. Well, that was all I had. Sarah, this was lovely. Do you want to ask me any questions? You said you wanted to ask me questions. You got 1 minute. You don't have to ask me. What? You said, but before this started, she said it's going to be the hard. What are you afraid of most on your short film? What scares you most? Honestly, it's the fucking coffee shop. Like, I don't know how to. So just fucking make it not a coffee shop. Why does it have to be a coffee shop? It doesn't, but I just mean finding. It can be a walk and talk. Because honestly, with to-go coffees. Well, no, it can't. Well, it could. It can't. It could. Honestly, you said all the scenes. It's like my living room, Barnesdale Art Park, walking down Rodney. Like I have them all except for the coffee shop. And so that scares me. But can it be a food truck outdoors? Could be. But where do I get a food truck? That seems honestly harder. I don't know. Maru closes at 5. Do you know anyone that works at Maru? I don't know. But just start, you know what? Just go in and start asking people. Honestly, and there's like sets. There's like fake sets now, right? Like there's like a Zillow for fake sets, so I can find it through that too. Don't do that. No? I bet that's bad. I don't know. Maybe I don't think about it. It sounds sus. No, there's there's like rental rooms that you can rent that are like yeah. Maybe they're good. Have you ever filmed in a coffee shop? Yeah, I filmed in a coffee shop. You don't want to, you do. I'm just saying, I'm nothing against standing sets, but you don't want it to feel like a set you've seen a bajillion times. Agreed. Either. You want to customize it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, your biggest fear is the coffee shop. Can I push back on you? Yeah, please. Push. It makes me creatively worried for you if that's your big fear. I think you're not. I mean, the spirit of this might be, I don't know what the short film is about, buddy hangout or whatever the vibe is, but there should be a slice of life. But okay, but isn't there a what's your deeper philosophical fear? Why are you making this? Because I think it's very good, and I think it's really funny. I think our dynamic, me and my buddy, are really fun, and I think that's a fun dynamic for people to see. Mm-hmm. And I want to make something. Yeah. But I think, honestly, I just think, like, it's not like a groundbreaking short, but I think
us two characters are fun characters. Mm-hmm. And we just have a fun back and forth dynamic that I think we put in the writing pretty well.
Okay.
And like, he's a gay man and I'm a straight white male. And like, it just feels like a fun little buddy back and forth.
Okay. I'm only pushing you because I was like, I wonder. Push. I wonder.
Nobody pushes me. I feel unchallenged in life.
I'm
honestly.
challenging you. I think it's cool to make something as an exercise, like a creative exercise, and then sort of kind of being aware of what that is. But I guess if you're thinking of yourself like do you have ambitions to direct, or do you just want to have this more as like a showcase for you as an actor?
Less ambition to direct.
Okay, then I think you should find a director for this.
Oh, are you?
That's what I'm sort of sensing. I don't think you actually
yourself.
No, sorry, no, I'm not. But I think maybe you should find a director for this.
Why do you say that?
I think it'll be really freeing for you, and then you'll have that key creative ally. And I think also because they're a good director is going to find that why, and that sort of, even a comedy is everything kind of comes from some type of fear or some type of itch that needs scratching. You don't want to make something just to make something. Hopefully, there's nothing wrong with that. But also, like if you want to be answering some type of call from within. And that's okay if this is not that for you, but you maybe find a director for whom it is, so that they can really bring something even more heightened to the process.
This is really interesting and almost philosophical in a way.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to leave on that note. Bye. Good luck.
You're going to slate your name here at the end.
I have to slate again?
Yeah.
That's super weird. No, I will. Oh man, it seems like being an actor, like slating would be the hardest part. This is really uncomfortable for me. I'm gonna put this is not me trying to be cool. This is me just like afraid.
She's cool.
No, this is me, and there's like thumbprints on it.
She's
This
cool.
is me just being afraid. Okay, this is my tail slate. This is Sarah Adina Smith. I'm gonna leave now. Bye.
MTV and the channel E. A thing for celebrity.
I do a lot of emailing in my dreams.